want to start off this panel by asking Mr. Hakan, can you please paint a picture for us? What has changed in the world of manufacturing since COVID kind of hit the world and changed everything?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, let me start with a couple of trends, which is shifting all the production and the manufacturing overall. One is the digitalization. The second one is the sustainability approaches. And the digitalization is something that enables for the manufacturing shifts to be much more cost effective, much more efficient overall, and easier and flexibility for the markets. And under digitalization, I'd like to mention about a couple of changes as well. And one of them is the personalization needs. There is in the market too much need for the personalization of the products. And the second one is the need for the cost optimization in the manufacturing, operational costs, or generally the cost of manufacturing. We all need to emphasize how we will optimize those to create the sustainability approach. And there is a concept of we in the company using like industrial metaverse, which enables this digitalization transformation, making it happen. And what it means is a kind of a digital world to mirror and to simulate the real factories, real manufacturing, real infrastructure, real needs into the digital platform, so that you can have easier access to the markets and you can replicate the things in digital twins, so that you have the better cost-effective approach and energy-efficient approach. And the second market trend, as I say, is the sustainability. Whatever we do, it needs to be sustainable, not only for the business models, for the world-facing challenges like the climate change. It needs to have a sustainability approach overall, so that we can create a much carbon neutral kind of manufacturing moving forward. So these mega trends are playing critical role.
Fascinating changes are happening across the world, of course, but how does it hit companies and businesses? And here I turn to you, Ms. Banke, to kind of let us know, how did it impact your business? You're an entrepreneur, you're in the fashion industry, you specialize in silk, and a lot of this was coming from China, of course. You had to change things.
Yes, and I think it was a necessary change, and I think these changes really were brought about during and after COVID, and it really became a necessity because we all went into lockdown, travel was made tough, so basically the way I communicate with my manufacturers and suppliers completely changed, and it became more cost effective, it became a lot more efficient, and it became faster, because in the world we live in where customers want things now, time is everything. So for example, when we design, so we do the designs, we have the pattern cutters who translate our sketches into patterns, and then you have the sewers. So that whole process has become more digital. So now we can create 3D models, we can sample our designs on the 3D models, which makes the process faster. We don't have to have back and forths with suppliers and sending out patterns and sending out samples. It's now all digital, and it can happen within hours. So this has really made my job a lot easier. It's made my consumers happier because now the fit is so precise, because on the 3D model, everything is to the T. And generally, it has made my job and my consumers and my customers a lot happier.
What kind of investments did you need to make this change happen?
It wasn't a lot. It was just it's just software that we can program into our computers. So it wasn't a lot, and because we specialize in digital print, and so we already have the knowledge on the programs anyway. So it was actually a very quick process for us, and also. Actually, our suppliers were able to also guide us through these processes, because it was something they were working on, which we were like dragging our feet on. But with lockdown, we had no choice because travel was made impossible.
Necessity.
Yeah.
Mr. Abdulrahman, I want to ask you, how did you see this trend manifesting itself across the GCC and mostly in Qatar?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. I believe I would like to echo our distinguished colleague on the panel. A key word has been mentioned, resilience and sustainability. And I want to add also productivity in our model. I mean, what we have seen during the COVID, that it outpaced and accelerated basically the digitalization adoption throughout a number of sectors, especially on the manufacturing, since it has a labor intensity scale in a way or another. So at that time, manufacturers, they were delaying in basically the adoption of technology, especially looking basically for the particular demand in a way or another. What happened through the COVID, that acceleration has happened. However, the factories and manufacturers, they lack advisory from basically governmental institution and so on and so forth because of the deprioritization happened, especially in the manufacturing sector. Yes, a huge push was happening on the innovation aspect, but mostly on a tech-based platform and services sector. But what we have done here and also in Qatar, that we have created this notion by basically pushing the digital adoption throughout the manufacturing sector. We have created a model factory that its objective to convey the lean and transfer program towards basically upskilling factories and to become more digitally prepared in a way or another. And the international scene, what we have seen that, yes, we are adopting and we are pushing towards basically 4.0 industrial revolution. However, when you speak to reality, a lot of manufacturers that they are still not ready even for the basic fundamental when it comes basically for IT infrastructure. So basically preparation for digitalization is a must, and it's more important than the AI that we keep speaking about as of now. So basically we need to pave the road and basically the foundation. And then basically we add the digital use cases that is applicable basically for certain industry based on their quick wins and ease of implementation as well. And this is exactly what we have done beyond basically lean and transfer. The moment that we make sure that our factories has reduced their scrap rate, waste rate, having basically a better productivity that affecting basically their bottom line at the end of the day, this is where they will be at least incentivized to embrace digital adoption. And this is where we have also conduct the SIRI assessment, which is basically the Smart Industrial Readiness Index, that to gauge our manufacturing sector maturity and to understand where they lack exactly, and we map a digital use cases pertaining to their gaps, rather than we just offload them with a very complicated, sophisticated AI-based tools and so on and so forth, just to make sure that they cover the needs. And this is where we have created a lighthouse, a digital lighthouse, where manufacturers, they can go and witness how basically digital and 4.0 can bring to make basically physical asset speaks with each other through basically Internet of Things and a lot of basically technological means for them basically to illustrate it within their factories. And this is basically the courses that we are basically onboarding selected factories to make sure that they have a 4-month intense from basically diagnosis, analysis, implementation of those digital use cases, and then maintaining it. And as everything is set within basically one umbrella here in Qatar for basically startup and entrepreneur, also we provide basically the financing elements, which basically technological financing, certain incentive grants, complementing this evolution towards basically digital adoption within the factories.
So the role of government is definitely interesting in all of this, of course, and here's why I want to ask you, Your Excellency, what do you think is the role of government in this rewiring change of the manufacturing landscape, and to what degree you think it's sustainable for the future?
Well, sustainable and productivity are the key words for the future. Basically, the role of government has already been outlined, and the Italian government, just to give you a few facts, Italy is the second largest manufacturing country in Europe, is the second largest service producing country in Europe, but it's the first in terms of very specific and high quality industries. And we do that with a set of, with 95% of our companies small and medium sized, and we're just facing the problems that have been highlighted. First, there was the first wave, the 4.0, there was the automation, so we had to bring these companies together. Then we have a second wave, which is the digitalization and environmental sustainability. I would like to stress that small and medium-sized companies can only be successful if they work within value chain that we have to address as such. And as such, our role is not just to provide companies with the skills and the reskilling necessary, but also in Italy we've created some 50 centers of technological transition. What is the point? We have companies that are producing that have to walk and chew gum, change their manufacturing whilst they keep the factory going. And we try to show them with 50 centers, because Italy is longer and larger, where we have them go and assess their needs and assess their, see what they can do most of the time, and show them what it can be done. Model factories and all the rest. Point is, and that is common to all of us, is we have to overcome one point, which is fear and hesitancy on the part of small and medium-sized companies to embrace these technologies. We have to tell them they're not just threats, but they're also opportunities that are there to be taken. We heard the example how the factory was streamlined, how your production cycle got better. Not all of them are ready to do that. So the role of government is A, to provide the know-how, B, disseminate the knowledge, provide concrete examples, but tell people to overcome their fear. Fear of embracing innovation, fear of the results, because now, especially with AI, we do a lot of talking about AI nowadays. Artificial intelligence is already existing. When we talk about AI, we talk about large language models. Well, my challenge is we have to explain to companies that the use of large language models and of innovation is going to bring about a democratization of the production process. We want, as Italy, we want to maintain our production system by applying to get a better technology, these new skills, be it the artificial intelligence, to help companies that don't have now the knowledge to be able to do it. And I always bring the example of the cloud. The cloud allowed small and medium-sized businesses to profit from the goods of the net. They were able to use the new technology as a service. We have to provide our companies the artificial intelligence as a service, which they can access and use as much as they are. I didn't reply to your question on sustainability. Sustainability is crucial. We now have to look at the life cycle of products. Within the European Union, as you know, we're very strict, and we will create a CBAM, a system whereby you will measure the carbon footprint. And now, the second point, maybe we'll go into that later, is that we're changing our manufacturing system from a production system to a process system. The company has to think from the raw materials to the life cycle of the product. And that involves the huge, again, of data and a vision which is much longer than it used to be in the past.
Interesting. I want to ask you, Hakan, when you're looking at the region as a whole, a lot of governments are now focusing on trying to build up their capacity. So COVID kind of laid bare the vulnerability for a lot of governments when they're not able to, when the supply chains got disrupted. Across the region, we hear about so many governments trying to build up certain industries, some which are new to them, so they may not be in the best position to be leaders in. How are you helping these countries, and do you think this shift will be successful for some of them?
Yeah. Actually, the COVID, every challenge has an opportunity itself, right? COVID was a challenge, but it created lots of opportunities. And every national vision, they started to think about how I can do the localizations, how I can supply my own needs without being dependent to other stakeholders. So I think in the Middle East overall, I see the big growth on digital transformation area. And the Middle Eastern countries is most of the time they're oil and gas vertical based working, but the sustainability plays a critical role on the transition for energy and as well as infrastructure and as well as the manufacturing as well. Then whenever they pay attention to manufacturing, I see the factories or manufacturing not only for the physical output, it needs to be on the software developments as well. So most of the R&Ds and the software developments is actually the big opportunity for the Middle East to even show the Middle Eastern countries globally and play a critical role on the software developments. These are the new type of the, factories actually. That's the reason I keep on emphasizing the industrial metaverse, which makes actually the manufacturing on the digital platform, on the digital world, so that you can always simulate the real factories, real infrastructure and transportation systems in the digital world. And going back to a little bit building on what His Excellency Minister said on the need for the optimization and create the productiveness and the efficiency. You said it's really important, and to make the things much more sustainable for our near future. So you need to make this in the cost-effective way, energy-efficient way. So to do it, you need to use the technology. So that is actually the answer, even not only for the local aspect, but globally. Technology, I believe it's the only way to optimize the cost, to create the efficiencies. And AI is one of them. I see lots of benefits of utilizing the AI. And IoT, of course, they're all integrated. Whenever you build the sensors, you collect the data. Thanks to data analytics technology, then you create the digital twins of the real product, like replicas. Then it's easier to go to the market. It's less cost to go to the market, and it's much better for customization. So you don't need to stop the real factories all the time. You build the scenarios on digital, then you make it happen on the real if it makes sense.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate goal.
Banke, I wanted to ask you in terms of the transformation turned out to be successful for you. How has been the funding environment currently, considering market interest rates are very high and the changes are happening? The entire environment seems a little bit more difficult for companies trying to expand, trying to grow.
You know, we have gone through all sorts of roller coasters really since COVID. Now we're going through a recession. So, I mean, everything is about costs and trying to manage your costs and keeping your costs down. And also, I mean, sourcing has been a tricky one for us. And, you know, with blockchain technology, we are able to have real transparency to help us with our sourcing, so we can see what is in the fabric, you know, how the fabric is going to react, so we don't have to keep testing and wasting, to be honest. And also with technology in terms of cutting our patterns, we use technology now, so when we're laying the patterns on the fabric, there's minimum wastage.
Yeah.
And, you know, also reducing traveling, carbon footprints as well. So it's all about communication. And with communication, we're able to really cut down our costs and make things cheaper for our consumers. And also being able to sell digitally as well. So customers have access to buy things. And we're trying to create a system on our website where, you know, we use virtual reality for customers to really even sort of try on the outfit. So there's less returns, which is cheaper for us in terms of our logistics. We're working with AI also to kind of work with warehouses so we can see where trends are happening in different parts of the world. So we send certain products to certain warehouses, so we're saving time and money in that sense. So we're just really clamping down on the little things, but the little things all build up to big things.
So you can try on the clothes digitally.
Well, that's what we're working on, right? So if you have a digital model, then you can try on the clothes digitally. So it saves on costs of returning things, you know. Yeah.
Abdulrahman, I wanted to ask you about the funding. It seems you do a lot of hand-holding of certain companies, trying to navigate the ability of these companies to get to the market and increase exports. But how is the funding environment? I would imagine a lot of companies come to you with funding requirements and needs in this environment.
Well, since the title of this panel is manufacturing, I think this is basically where our focus is across basically a number of also priority sector. But manufacturing sector always come across number of national development strategies, especially in the latest one, which is basically industry, also re-emphasizing on the manufacturing sector with a clear target on growth and labor productivity and R&D and so on and so forth. Yet this is basically the bread and butter of basically QDB financing. We have more than 65 concentration on the manufacturing sector within our portfolio. Our portfolio today, it reached 7 billion Qatari riyal, and basically we are also expanding on the priority sector that has been highlighted and emphasized by the industry as well. What we provide basically, it's also the services that you mentioned is basically from the ideation until the export. So incubation and acceleration, especially on manufacturing, the model factory that I mentioned. Luckily also we are on the fashion aspect and also on the metaverse. So it's not purely on a heavy scale manufacturing, but manufacturing today it's a bit of a wider terminology that can go agnostic as long as basically the underlying technology is supporting both services and manufacturing. On also the the discussion on the adoption of technology, I believe today the sector needs clarity as well. We've been through a number of waves, and I think the latest was COVID, where everyone was more reactive into basically localizing the supply chain and being more resilient. Now we are seeing also this scene has faded a little bit, that basically more tradability has happened, more importation has become. Yet who will be impacted? Those factories that they have initiated towards basically supplying for a local, for the local demand. Also from other scene, and I think we have seen it across all the panel and the topic within this forum, is about basically the protectionism measures that countries are basically dictating and proposing, and everyone wants basically to play a role in basically localizing as much as possible within ICV aspect. I think we as a GCC we are agreeing on the unity of the value chain. So the scalability is very important. However, technology, how it will help in terms of basically making the process and the end product competitive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So competitiveness will be driven by basic lean and transform exercises and practices. On top of it, basically digitalization is happening. And this should be basically supported by both private sector willingness and the fear that His Excellency also mentioned, that government basically provide certain support and incentive packages that will overcome those fears and basically encourage those manufacturers to take this opportunity, not only for localization purposes, but also to make them more competitive, to have basically more credibility cross-border, even basically with unforeseen and force measure that we are seeing today, like the Red Sea crisis, for example. Yeah. We are seeing a huge disruption in the logistical route that impose basically delay and additional costs that it affects at the end of the day the export. So how basically government and development entity, especially that cash convergence cycle is getting longer. So this is where government should have surgical intervention, not just from reactive approach, but also from proactive approach. I think within the COVID, we have seen a lot of the pandemic happen, and basically all government was in a bit reactive. However, I think Qatar was also having a unique proposition at that end, because we were building our capacity towards a mega event that happened by coincidence that COVID came. So from resilience perspective, we are ready. And also the mapping and diversification of basically your private sector who especially have a product and goods exportability, not services, but it rely on international demand. So diversifying those demand destination and making sure that FTA agreement, understanding basically competitiveness within basically your manufacturing sector, to which destination, providing also a bit of buyer's credit product, financing those destination in order to make your product and services more lucrative and basically competitive when it comes to the pricing as well. So a lot of measures government basically should take to support the factory, not only from digitalization, but it's a cohesive strategy that put clarity, and digitalization will be adopted organically, I would say.
Yeah. Minister, governments were caught off guard last time with COVID, but now it seems crisis after crisis, Red Sea was mentioned, of course. How are governments now dealing with these issues and the unforeseen, unexpected? Another point I want to ask you to address first is you mentioned the fear among businesses. It seems some businesses wholeheartedly adopted the change. Why some are still reluctant?
Fear is very much related to size. Of course, larger companies invest more and have more R&D. But as I said, in the network of small and medium-sized companies, and I would like to remind you that small and medium-sized companies is a fabric that throughout the world is the basis of manufacturing. They tend to have a narrower view, and usually they're family-driven and they're much more conservative in their investments. And some of them take up innovation very easily. Others have a more hesitant attitude towards it. That's why I say some are fear. And secondly, I get into the wider picture. I'll give you a wider reply to all the things that were said today. in terms of technology and especially AI at this moment, there's two visions. There's the dystopic vision and the utopic vision, and we have to be in the middle. Unfortunately, the dystopic vision tends to create fear among people, and especially reaction to what is a fact. Technology got us where we are. Technology will take us out of the situation we're in. In wider terms, Edgar Morin said we live in a state of permacrisis. Someone else says polycrisis. The fact is, uncertainty is the name of the game nowadays. And we've left a world where we thought with certainty after the fall of the Berlin Wall, we thought we were in a rule-based liberal economy where just in time was the key. In a fully globalized world, the decision was, shall I make it or shall I buy it? How long it takes, whatever it takes. Now, things have changed radically. We have to know that we probably are going towards a world that's no longer flat. There are hills and valleys. There are areas of the world that tends to be more homogeneous, others are not. And these areas of the world will be trading and competing amongst themselves. And I think in that case, other areas are fundamental, not just reshoring, nearshoring, but also two things. One is redundancies. Since you don't know and you cannot rely on the key areas of your business on other parts of the world, you have to create more redundancies because you have to decide where to go. And that's one of the points. And that increases costs, of course. You no longer have the efficiency of a globalized world. We have to know that. And secondly, there's another element that takes a great importance. It's logistics. We've seen it during the pandemic. And areas of the world like this, and I think Qatar has a tremendous opportunity, not just because of the possibility of making investments, but also of the geographic position and political position. It finds itself in the hinges of this world that's taking a different shape. So two elements are logistic, redundancy. Thirdly, we go towards a world where we know there's going to be competition amongst areas of the world, and I'm saying it's here in the place when I come and we stay at the Sheraton Hotel. That's the temple to the WTO. Here the WTO was founded. Every time I come to Qatar, the signing of WTO was there. Probably those times are gone, but it's our job as politicians, people in manufacturing, etc., is to live in the present, thinking about the future. And our idea is we'll have to be able to cope with this new reality, which is going to be, as I said, a reality that is in a state of crisis. We should not think that things will go back to what they were. We have to think that we are in a state of permanent change. Probably we're going from traditional physics to quantum mechanics, where everything is there at the same time. I think it's also a quantum world in political terms, and we have to deal with that.
It's an opportunity.
I hope I wasn't too...
No, it's... especially the job cuts will present definitely issues for governments with increased unemployment and other risks. So how do they deal with that?
Yes, there's going to be disruption, of course. But at the same time, we have to know for every job destroyed, there'll be other jobs created. And anyhow, you cannot stop progress. You have to go with it. Secondly, and you have here somebody from the fashion industry where Italians think we're very good. There too, we see a trend where you have mega technology, but also a tailor-made return to traditional artisanal way of making. So we have to be able to preserve the two. And there'll be a new balance. But of course, even traditional activities are changing because the world's changing. So you cannot be a ludist. You cannot think, or neo-ludist. We stop progress. We have to know what progress is. As governments, we have to try to counter the repercussions of progress, but we have to go towards the future.